He's the largest land predator on Earth. A near-perfect killing machine. And for eons, the polar bear has engaged in a struggle for survival with the elusive ringed seal. The seal goes for a tactical approach, while the bear relies on stealth and raw power. It's a battle of evolutionary behavior and biomechanics, all seen through the eyes of Predator. On this late winter day in the frozen Arctic, the polar bear wins himself a ringed seal, not just by using his deadly teeth and claws, but by using patience. He remained perfectly still for 2 hours, waiting for the seal to pop her head out of a hole in the ice. While standing there, the bear had to endure temperatures of 40 below zero and 120-kilometer-per-hour winds. But this bear has an amazing adaptation to survive and even thrive in some of the most bone-chilling conditions on the planet. He is so well insulated that he emits almost no heat. All his warmth is locked away deep inside his body, protecting him from the sub-zero Arctic weather. And he's genetically outfitted with an extreme layering system. He's packed on 10 centimeters of insulating fat, the byproduct of eating hundreds of blubbery seals. The fat is encased in a thick hide with a surprising genetic twist. The skin is black, not white, so it absorbs sunlight, generating heat. Above that is a 5-centimeter layer of short, dense hair, like a thick sweater that traps heat and keeps the bear warm. And to top him all off, the ultimate winter coat. 12 centimeters of stiff outer fur that's completely water repellent. The bear must get as much nourishment as he can from the kill. So he goes straight for the seal's fat, which converts into massive amounts of energy. The fat alone in a large adult seal has over 100,000 calories. And to sustain himself at 2.5 meters and over 500 kilograms, this polar bear must consume an average of 16,000 calories a day. More than a human needs in a week.
The bear has to take a seal on average every 5 days to build up enough fat in order to survive during the course of the year.
So even if he extracts every bit of fat from this seal, to avoid dipping into his energy reserves, he'll have to make another kill before the week is out. For the next several days, this bear wanders the frozen landscape, searching for that next meal. But in the vast expanse of the Arctic Circle, there are just 2.5 ringed seals for every square kilometer. It's like searching for only 23 seals on the entire island of Manhattan. And worse yet, even if he finds one, there's usually a meter of thick, impenetrable ice between him and his elusive meal. And underneath that ice, this seal can swim circles around the polar bear. So she wisely spends 90% of her entire life underwater. But ringed seals are mammals, and mammals have to come to the surface to breathe. So every precious breath of life could lead to her death. But the seal still has the edge, because the bear never knows where the seal will appear. He can only stand guard at one hole. And in a 2.5 square kilometer radius, the seal uses up to 12 different breathing holes. She doesn't breathe from the same hole every time she needs air, which forces the bear into a guessing game. It's a deadly contest of Russian roulette, in which the seal literally risks her life every time she comes up for air. So this bear is once again waiting almost 2 hours over a hole. Trying to anticipate where the seal will emerge.
The best strategy is just to wait very still until the seal comes up. Not making any motions, not scraping the ice or anything else like that.
It's called still hunting. He has to remain perfectly motionless, because even the slightest shift by the bear sends vibrations through the ice and into the water, where they trigger the seal's sensitive whiskers. With 10 times as many nerve fibers as a cat's whiskers, it gives her an amazing ability to sense the bear's presence without even seeing him. Just below the surface of the ice, this ringed seal has now gone almost 10 minutes without breathing. She's searching for a hole to come up for air. Just above the ice, the polar bear sits over a breathing hole. It's been nearly a week since the bear's last meal. He hasn't been at the right hole at the right time and is losing more than the guessing game. He's beginning to dip into his own fat reserves. And since the lean summer months are coming, if this polar bear misses too many opportunities, he won't survive.
It's not easy for the bear. 90% of the time he goes to a breathing hole, he comes up empty-handed. But that 10% of the time he does snag himself a seal, man, it's worth the wait. Because there's enough fat on that seal to last him for a whole week.
But there's no room for error. When the seal comes up for air, he has a paper-thin window in which to catch her. He must react immediately when the seal's nose emerges.
He knows that that little sound that accompanies breathing means that you've got 70 milliseconds to react and get in there and grab it.
The polar bear finally makes his move, but emerges with a mouthful of nothing. He did everything right. He picked the right hole. He waited patiently, motionless. And his reaction was 4 times faster than the blink of an eye. So why isn't this bear eating a seal? Because it doesn't matter how quickly you get into the hole when the hole is empty. In this evolutionary battle for survival, the seal has developed a tactic that may actually use the bear's stunning reaction time against him. She stops just short of the hole and exhales, sending bubbles to the surface, which tricks the polar bear into quickly exposing his position. In a fraction of a second, she's determined that this hole is unsafe and moves on without a scratch. It's a victory for the seal, but she's still in danger. She never took in any air at the breathing hole, and expending so much energy on her escape is depleting her already low oxygen supply.
She's got to find access to the air. These seals are pretty good at knowing where the holes are and finding air. But there are times when there isn't a breathing hole there. But at some point, they're going to have trouble.
In the high Arctic, water freezes faster than anywhere on Earth. And at 40 degrees below zero, liquid quickly becomes solid. The seal returns to one of her breathing holes, but it's frozen up, trapping her under the very ice that shields her from the polar bear. And since she can only hold her breath for 1 more minute, she doesn't have enough time to reach the other open holes. Her one shot is to return to the scene of the crime, the hole where she just fooled the polar bear. The seal faces a death or death decision. Die by drowning, or die in the jaws of the polar bear. The seal catches a life-saving break. The polar bear abandoned the hole and ventured back out in search of something to satisfy his growing hunger. Having lost a meal, he continues to lose vital calorie reserves needed to survive the lean summer months. He journeys for kilometers with no signs of life.
Unless the wind is blowing hard enough to drive the snow, it sounds quiet all the time because there's nothing for the wind to act against. It can be dead quiet for days.
In this eerie silence, sounds can travel for kilometers. A distant noise sparks his interest. Finally, he sees what he's been hearing. Another bear, a female. Ordinarily, he might not give her a second glance when he's this hungry. But it's early spring, polar bear breeding season, and he's hardwired to pursue her. But just as he's about to engage the female, competition moves in. Another male challenges him in a clash for mating rights. These ferocious fighters could tear each other to shreds. They have 5 razor-sharp claws, 10 centimeters long and 3 centimeters thick, that can slice chunks out of flesh. But if they're injured in any way, their hunting ability is compromised, which means they could easily starve. So this fight is more about intimidation. Their 42 serrated teeth are connected to one of the strongest jaws on the planet, fighting with over 200 kilograms of force, more powerful than a lion. But here, they only use a fraction of that power. And these 2 enormous adversaries are each capable of attacking with over 1,900 kilograms of force. That's like a car crashing into a wall at nearly 65 kilometers per hour. But in this display, it's more like wrestling and less like a high-speed collision. The challenger is intimidated by our male's claws, teeth, and power. So he submits. And with his dominance firmly established, the male takes his mate. They stay together and breed for a week.
The 2 bears have this mating session, but it doesn't last very long because they probably can't survive together for that much longer. Food is so scarce that each bear needs its wide enough territory just to get enough food in order to be able to survive.
So after the courtship ends, they leave each other to continue their solitary treks through the frozen Arctic, looking for food. He satisfied his primal instinct to breed, but the battle to win his mate cost him energy he can't afford to lose. because this winter, he's falling way short of his seal quota. He's burning thousands of calories a day, yet consuming none. And worse yet, it's the brink of summer, when just over half of the 15 million square kilometers of Arctic ice melts, and the bear's hunting ground literally disappears from under his feet.
In the summertime, the less your chances of actually getting access to seals. They're in the water swimming around and therefore not available to the bears. So that's a tough time for them.
With hunger gnawing at him, he scrounges the windswept coast for food, but he can't find anything to sustain him. Too weak to hunt, he'll have to spend the summer scrounging for tiny sustenance, like eggs and kelp, conserving whatever energy he has left. When winter finally arrives and the seas freeze over once again, his energy reserves are gone. He's lost 250 kilograms and nearly 10 centimeters of insulating blubber. He's now so thin, the polar bear is freezing in the very environment he once ruled. He can't even muster the energy needed for still hunting. Starved of fat and calories, he perishes in the vast Arctic wilderness. This bear may have lost the ultimate battle, but a part of him lives on. 8 months ago, he mated with a female, and 80 kilometers north, in a cave carved out of snow, his 2 tiny cubs are born. They are raised in the den for 3 months until they're strong enough to venture out into the Arctic. Leading up to the cub's birth, the mother had to kill twice as much as an average female to gain the 200 extra kilograms of fat she needed to get through the birthing season. But after 8 months without eating, the mother has no more surplus fat. So now she must shift her focus from mothering back to hunting. And nature is giving her plenty of targets. It's ringed seal birthing season, when droves of pregnant seals have to emerge from the safety of the water to give birth. If the mother bear doesn't take advantage of this opportunity to fatten up, she may have to resort to a drastic measure to survive: eating her own cubs. Over a kilometer away, a pregnant ringed seal comes onto the ice. Despite being out of the water, the mother seal instinctively knows how to give her and her new pup a fighting chance.
The ring seals are clearly clever. They've found ways to survive in the Arctic. The female will come up through her breathing hole where there's a lot of snow drifted over it and excavate the lair to keep their pups well insulated and also a bit safe from the primary threat, which is the polar bear as a predator.
She starts with one central chamber, designed to shield her and her pup from the elements. Even though it's 26 below outside, it's a balmy 0 degrees in the lair. But more importantly, the seal ingeniously creates multiple hiding places, which increase her odds of survival. If an invading polar bear hits the wrong chamber, the seal has a fighting chance to escape into the sea. The seal is hidden under 1 meter of snow, completely invisible to the polar bear. But being invisible doesn't make her invincible, because the bear is heading right towards her. The mother ringed seal, nursing her newborn pup, has no idea that over 1 kilometer away, the mother polar bear is onto her.
You see the nose going up and the bear heading in a direction. It takes some going back and forth and moving into the scent in order to be able to track it.
She's guided purely by her incredible sense of smell. And once she locks onto that scent, she tracks it as well as any animal in the world. The mucous membrane in her nose is 100 times larger than a human's, lined with 1 billion chemoreceptors, each one like an antenna, specially tuned to pick up scents. And when they're activated, she can catch a whiff of seal from over 1 kilometer away, even when it's 1 meter beneath the surface of the snow. She tracks the seal's scent with the prowess of a bloodhound. But she has to tread lightly.
When the bears are hunting for these lairs, they have a limited amount of time that they can actually get to the lair, get into it, and get a meal. But they're very quiet, they're very stealthy. So this could be minutes, it could be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes or more when the bear is really stalking. But once it gets up to these lairs, that event is likely pretty quick. The bear is going to try and get into that lair as quickly as it can. But this is the cat and mouse game that's going on among these. The seal's trying to be alert to the potential threat of a predator, of a polar bear, and the bear's trying to conceal themselves as much as they can.
Under the snow, the mother seal is hypersensitive to even the slightest sound caused by any movement, and she'll respond the instant she senses danger.
There's probably only a few seconds that they've got. The female is quick, she'll be out of the lair into the water within that time. But the pup is not going to react that quickly.
The bear closes in. But now that the seal's scent has permeated every chamber in the lair, she's unable to pinpoint their exact location. So she has to pick a spot and strike. The bear busts into the wrong chamber, tricked by the seal's complicated lair. The multi-chambered bunker may buy the seals the precious seconds between life and death. Suddenly, the mother seal must make the toughest decision of her life. Save herself or protect her newborn pup. Staying could be suicide for both of them. So she abandons the pup.
It may seem a bit cruel, perhaps, to us, but it's a perfectly logical evolutionary response for a ring seal female. Maybe her pup will survive, she'll come back and reunite with it. But she's going to be alive, and there'll be more reproductive opportunities for her.
The seal pup is left alone. In a flash, it's over. With a quick snatch and grab, the bear is finally able to provide a meal for her cubs. Unfortunately, this pup is skimpy, just 9 kilograms, with barely enough fat to go around. In fact, she may have burned more calories than she consumed.
To a hungry polar bear and her pups, eating a newborn seal is kind of like taking a sip of water after you've been roaming around the desert for a week. You know, it's a relief, but to survive an environment like this, they need a lot more nourishment than that.
At this pace, she'd have to kill dozens of these small pups just to sustain herself, not to mention her cubs. It's a lot of work with little room for error. And if her strength fades, her cubs have no chance to survive. If she hopes to avoid being forced to consume her own offspring, she needs to hunt down something bigger. Her energy dwindling, she once again begins to search for food, hoping that buried under the wide open expanse of snow and ice is an unsuspecting seal.
There are some very interesting adaptations that we see, like the construction of birth layers, that have allowed them to continue to do very well in this environment in the face of this awesome predator.
She picks up the scent of prey and tracks it to a patch of snow. Just meters away, a solitary adult seal lies quietly in a birthing lair. The bear and her cubs desperately need the calories and fat from this adult seal, so she moves with extreme caution. Because unlike a mother seal with a pup, this seal won't hesitate to bolt the moment it senses a predator. The inexperienced cubs get restless. And tip off the seal. And now, the mother polar bear can only watch as the seal escapes into her breathing hole. a hole she can't enter. But the bear sees the seal head towards open water. And she still has a chance to track her down if she can beat the seal to the edge of the ice. She's perfectly designed to handle the ice, even in a full throttle sprint. Her massive paws have hundreds of tiny rigid bumps that grip into the ice, like the teeth on a snowmobile's treads, giving her some of the best traction in the animal kingdom. Despite her 270-kilogram mass, the polar bear runs faster than the seal swims. But if she doesn't head the seal off at the water's edge, the chase will go deep underwater, where the seal is almost impossible to catch. In her aquatic attack mode, she swims at 10 kilometers per hour and moves in for the kill. But suddenly, the seal dives. And puts her extraordinary adaptations to work. To conserve energy, she drastically slows her heart rate from 80 beats per minute to just 10. As she dives deeper, the temperature plummets to 4 degrees. But she keeps her core warm by diverting blood flow from her extremities to her heart and brain. She plunges to nearly 50 meters. And her body does something that would quickly kill any land mammal. Her lungs collapse. Her body is actually engineered to deflate her lungs. It prevents the bends, a potentially fatal buildup of nitrogen bubbles in the bloodstream, caused by plunging too deep or rising too fast. She dives 3 times deeper than a scuba diver and stays submerged for nearly 20 minutes. By the time she resurfaces, the polar bear is gone. After losing yet another potential meal, the polar bear is quickly running out of energy. It may not be long before she's forced to stop protecting and start eating her cubs. So now she goes on the hunt for a big score. She tracks distant noises, too intense to be a ringed seal. She soon discovers that just beneath her feet is a meal so large it could sustain her and her cubs for the rest of the month. 20 metric tons of whale meat. A pod of beluga whales is trapped in a small opening in the ice. Unable to hold their breath long enough to reach the open sea, so they repeatedly surface here for air, defenseless. But at 3.5 meters long and 1,300 kilograms, how can she make a meal out of one? To kill it, she has to haul it onto the ice and slice it open, a feat that would take all of her strength So she has to decide, is this motherload of fat, over 1 million calories, worth pushing her already weakened body to its limit? She moves in for a closer look. The belugas know she's there waiting and try to stay underwater. But eventually, they'll have to breathe. Her razor-sharp claws stab the whale's back. But she can't get a grip. She might be able to wrestle one onto the ice, if she can wear it down before she wears herself down.
For her, basically, energy is money. So just as we all try to use our money in the wisest manner we can, the bear is trying to expend energy as wisely as possible.
Killing one now would set her and her cubs up for summer. But she can't muster up the strength to hoist it out of the water. The assault leaves her drained. She's burned through so much energy, she only has enough for one more hunt. And her best shot is an adult ringed seal. It's less effort than a 1,300-kilogram whale, and more calories than a skimpy seal pup. But it will take all her predatory skill to analyze every movement, scent, and sound. With so little opportunity for a meal, she can't afford to blow a good lead. Suddenly, the polar bear's super sensitive ears pick up a noise. She tries to decipher the distant sounds that trickle in. Scratching, rustling, scraping. She tracks the noises, continually altering her path to hone in on their source. She can hear 10 decibels lower than a human, opening up a world of sounds we can't even process. And she can pinpoint the source of those sounds to within 1 degree, more accurate than any device made by man. Her ears detect sound coming from beneath the snow, nearly 15 meters away. It's a ringed seal, and she can hear it digging. The bear uses these whispers of sound, echoing up through the ice, to zero in on her target. The roof of the lair is iced over, more than a half-meter thick, and nearly impossible to break through. With the seal buried under a layer of thick ice and hard snow, how did the bear make the kill? With pure power. She crashed down to shatter the icy roof of the lair with nearly 1,000 kilograms of force. And in a hunt that always comes down to a matter of centimeters, the seal made one crucial mistake that led to its demise. It fled down a dead end. Unable to reach the seal, the bear pulled back out, giving the seal a second chance at freedom. But instead of shooting down the clear path to its escape hatch, the seal squirmed deeper into its chamber. This gave the polar bear a few more seconds to hone in on the sound of its movement. And when a seal gives a polar bear enough time, there's no stopping it. She buried her 5-centimeter canines into each side of the seal's head, instantly crushing its skull. She and her cubs devour the seal. They can't afford to waste even a gram of fat. Pitted in combat against such a challenging adversary, they never know when they'll find their next meal. In this desolate land, the polar bear and ringed seal endure a constant struggle to survive. Their strengths and weaknesses are evenly balanced. But the rules of their game are quickly changing as the Earth itself undergoes a change of its own.
The climate in the Arctic is changing faster than anywhere else on Earth. We're already seeing the effects, and they could have potentially devastating ramifications for the animals there.
The ice is going out earlier and coming back later than it used to. That means that the bear has that much less time to hunt.
And with a shorter hunting window against the wily ringed seal, the bear will have to become an even more efficient hunter. As their rapidly shifting environment serves up more challenges, the polar bear and ringed seal must continue to develop new tactics and adjust to the ever-changing rules of their deadly game.